Hi everybody, this is drawninjakc and this is day 20 of the 100 Days of Drawing Challenge. And today's prompt is hairdo. And who better to illustrate hairdo than the queen of the Inhumans herself, Medusa. Medusa is a Marvel character. She's the queen of the Inhumans. She's married to Black Bolt. And her powers are that her hair is alive and she has full control over her hair. She has this immense amount of hair and she can rip things apart with it and do things with it. So this is the idea that got into my head when I heard hairdo. It had to be exciting, it had to be interesting, and it had to be entertaining. So I think Medusa illustrates all of this. Now my process is, before I even started the sketch, I did a little thumbnail sketch for myself to ensure that I know where the drawing is going. And I'm using here my 0.7 lead mechanical pencil, and I think I've mentioned this before in another video that I used to use 0.5, but I found that the 0.7 is a much better lead for me personally, because I tend to have a heavy hand and 0.7 is a lot more durable than 0.5. So here we have me just doing the pencils, and I'm tightening it up right now. And I studied a lot of the female figure, so I felt very confident about this drawing because one of my weaknesses were drawing the female figure. So I think that drawing this particular character was kind of like therapeutic for me, in the sense that I needed to know that I could confidently draw the female figure and convincingly draw the female figure. So I think that, judging from the pencils, all my studying paid off, because I think she's looking pretty good. And me personally, when I draw females, I like to draw them slightly curvy, as you can see in her hips, but also very strong. I don't like the females that I draw to look docile, but I like them to be a strong but feminine female. So my idea is always to keep the drawing of any female strong but also very feminine. Femininity is the name of the game when you're drawing superheroines, because you do want to give them the sense of being a female, but you also want to give them the sense of strength. So I think this also illustrates that. And the difference between drawing male and female definitely is the detail. Now with a male, it's okay to go in with a lot of detail, a lot of cross-hatching, a lot of shadows, showing different depths of the figure. But with females, you have to be subtle with the detail, and you have to leave out a lot of detail to keep the female looking more feminine, more soft, if you will. As putting in a lot of detail makes her look more, I don't know, hard, I guess. But you have to put in softer details. You have to make the line not so dark and not so defined. A lot of the drawing of the female has to be slight cross-hatching, or not even cross-hatching, just hatching altogether, and indication of muscles as opposed to full outlining of the muscles. So even in the leg muscles here that you see, I didn't draw a full leg muscles that you're usually accustomed to seeing. I draw that there's an indication of the leg muscles. And same things with the abs, and same things with the ribs, that everything seems to have an indication that it's there, but it's not overpowering, because I think that would make her look a little too masculine. And so here goes the hair that Medusa is known for. And doing the hair, I mean, her hair is crazy in the comic books. So doing the hair, I think it's kind of interesting concept for me. I just didn't know how to approach it, but so I just did the lines and just went back into the body again, and I just started doing the shading with the with the markers and the rendering with the markers. And during the marker rendering of the body, I'm just kind of contemplating what I'm gonna do with the hair. What, how am I gonna just handle this? And I know it's gonna come to me. Now I usually use the Blake markers for my coloring, but for this particular drawing I used a Sharpie, believe it or not. It just seemed to be that the Sharpie had the perfect color that I wanted to use, and so I went in with a Sharpie that was purple, and then a Sharpie that was also darker purple, and it worked out really well. So sometimes Sharpies can actually do well on art pieces, believe it or not. But in this particular case, the Sharpies came in very handy. And of course went back to my Blick markers to finish off the shading of the boots, and I also went in on the costume with some Blick markers, and then on the boots I went back to the Blick markers. No more Sharpies there. Sharpies were only for the major part of the costume. And here I'm using a colorless blender to do highlights on the costume. A little pointer. Colorless blenders, although they blend, but I always use them to create highlights from markers, because for me the colorless blenders always erase markers. They don't really blend them for me. I've never really used colorless blenders to blend markers. I use other markers to blend markers, but never a colorless blender. For colorless blenders I use them to erase markers and to create highlights, and they're excellent for that. So if you ever want to create highlights and you have markers and you have a colorless blender, you can put it to work. And this is me going in on the hair. I went in on the hair with a marker called Poppy Red, or Red Poppy, I believe. And this way I laid down just the flats with it, but I wanted to create some shadows with red itself because her hair is red. And after doing this, as you saw what I did with the colorless blender, I'm gonna go in like the middle parts of the strands to create highlights to give it kind of like a 3D effect. And that's what I decided I would do with the hair. And this decision came as I was drawing. I'm creating a little bit of a shadow in back of her, as you can see. It because she's in front of the hair, so I put a little shadow there. And here I am with the colorless blender creating some highlights. And this is me with a color pencil. Because there's so much going on in back of her, I want to gently separate her from the back so she pops out a little bit. So I outline her with a color pencil as opposed to a gel pen, because the color pencil is much more subtle. And there you have it, Medusa and her hairdo.